Hi there, Year 8. In case the exercise 9E, X-intercept, Y-intercept is confusing, this video is very example-based, so I'll just pick out the examples and I'll do a few so you get a feel of it, okay? Let's say, I don't know, I'm going to pick out this question, okay, F. I'm going to do F. So Y equals 3x plus 6. At the end of the day, you know what they want you to do? They want you to be able to sketch this equation. Now, to sketch this equation, okay, so if I were to draw it, the axes, what we don't want to do is what we did in exercise 9B. 9B is too tedious. It takes too long to do. So y-axis, x-axis. They want to see a picture, right? So how do you draw this picture? Remember, it's a straight line, so you only need 2 points. And the 2 best points you can figure out is y-intercept and x-intercept. In my video, I tried to explain to you the theory behind it, but at this point, I'm just going to get you to memorize now, okay? Assuming that you understood it. So here, to find the y-intercept, we know the y-intercept is, one fact is, x is always going to be 0, okay? X is always going to be 0. So this is your x coordinate. This is x. And the y is what we're trying to figure out, okay? So x is always going to be 0. Now, if that's true, then in your equation, y equals 3x plus 6, what you're saying is x is going to be 0. So that means y equals 3 times 0 plus 6, and you get y is equal to, now 3 times 0 is 0, and then 0 plus 6 gives you 6. What does that mean? What that means is you just figured out the coordinates is when x is 0, y has to be 6, according to this rule, according to that rule. So you got the point, 0, 6 already, okay? And then now you only need one more point, only one more point. So on the y-axis now, so this is the y-axis, so let's say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You now know you've got a coordinate right at 0, 6, right there at 0, 6. You got 1 point. You only need one more to sketch this line. So how do you do it? X-intercept. So where does it cross on the x-axis, right? Where does this line cross? Is it going to be like this? Is it going to be like this? Is it going to be like that? Is it going to be like that? I don't know where. Where on the x-axis does it cross? That's what you're trying to figure out, right? So here we go. Let's find out where the x-intercept is. X-intercept occurs when we notice the pattern is y is 0. Y coordinate is always 0. And so remember, this is one of the facts. We know the fact is that y coordinate has to be 0. So according to the equation again, y equals 3x plus 6. We know that the y coordinate has to equal to 0. So that means this is going to be 0. What we don't know is what x is. That's what we don't know. So here we can solve for x using what you learnt in the previous term. We use inverse operations or algebra to solve it. So instead of plus 6, minus 6 both sides. 6 take away 6 cancels out. And you get now negative 6 is equal to 3 times x. And then finally, let's solve for x. X is, divide both sides by 3, because that's a times 3. So opposite of times 3 is divide 3. 3 divided by 3 cancels out to be 1. And x equals to negative 2. So what does that mean? What you've just figured out is that x has to be negative 2. So x is negative 2 when y is 0. There you go. You got your 2 coordinates. Here are your 2 coordinates. You got 0, 6, which you calculated, and negative 2, 0. There you go. So where is negative 2, 0? Well, if you plot the coordinates, negative 1, negative 2 is over here, so maybe around here. Guesstimate it. Yeah, so it's around there. And then I use a ruler. I connect the two dots together. And there you go. That is your straight line. So when they ask you sketch this equation, what you're seeing right now, that is the technique that they want you to practice over and over. This is the only component that uses algebra. This part here was just substitution. You can use a calculator for that one. Yeah? This part's the only algebra part that you would have used from previous term. Okay, and then you're able to sketch. Now, if I go to Desmos just to show you what it looks like, let's go. I'm going to delete all of this so it doesn't get confusing. So what was the equation again? It was, the 2 points you figured out was at 0, 6. Right, so here we go. I'll label it 0, 6. I'm going to zoom out. There's 0, 6. And the other one was -2, 0, right? So you want to draw a line that crosses through those 2 points. Well, the equation you were trying to sketch was y equals 3x plus 6. Look at that. It crosses through those 2 points that you figured out. That's the line. Just the same way that we drew. Exactly the same thing. Okay, I'll do another one. Let's pick ones with negatives in it. Let's try h. Okay, so h is y equals -x minus 5, right? Okay, here we go. Let's do it again. So the goal is I want you to sketch this. That's the goal. This is y, this is x. Yeah? Well, you need 2 points to sketch a straight line. So here we go. Y-intercept. What do you know? What's the fact? What's the fact about a y-intercept that you know? For y-intercept, we know that the x-coordinate is always going to be 0. It has to be. That's a fact. What we don't know is what y is. According to the rule, y is equal to negative of x minus 5. Okay? Now, for those who don't realize, the number in front of x right now, even though it says negative, it's actually -1, just in case you didn't know. Okay? Now, we're saying x has to be 0. We know that x is 0 if you have a coordinate on the y-axis. That's it. Every time you have a y-intercept, the coordinate on the y-axis is always 0 for x. Yeah? So here we go. We use the calculator, or you can plug it in yourself. It's -1 times 0, and then you minus 5. Now, -1 times 0 is just 0, and then 0 minus 5 is -5. So now you've just figured out that y has to be -5 if x is going to be 0. So that's why you know the coordinate is 0, -5. You got 1 point. Only one more to go. Here we go. X-intercept now. If you can work out what the x-intercept should be for this rule, according to this rule, there has to be a pattern, right? What we know is that the y-coordinate is always 0. We just don't know what x is. But we know the y-coordinate has to be 0. That was the pattern. So if that's the pattern, let's do it again. Here's my equation, -1x minus 5. Now, if y has to be 0, if this is going to be your y is equal to 0, well then this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 0 is equal to -1x minus 5. Using your algebra stuff that you learned from previous lesson, plus 5 on both sides. -5 plus 5 cancels out. And you get into the next line. -1x is equal to +5. And then how do you get x by itself? What I don't want is that -1. That's a times -1. So the opposite of times -1 is divide. Divide -1 on both sides. -1 divided by -1 is +1. So hence you get +1x is equal to 5 divided by -1 is -5. And what does that mean? After you did all that algebra, so all this algebra stuff, what'd you find out? You found that x has to be -5. So the coordinate is x is -5 when the y-coordinate is 0. That's the only way to work for that rule. So now you can plot the points. Here are your 2 points. 0, -5, and -5, 0. So where should that roughly be? Do a guesstimate. -5 somewhere over here. So you can say -5, 0. And then 0, -5 is somewhere here. Try to keep it even. So 0, -5. Use a ruler. Connect the 2 dots together. And that is what the equation of -x, y equals -x minus 5 should look like. Let's prove it. Here we go. I'm going to delete, delete, delete. So the 2 coordinates you got were 0, -5. So that was the y-intercept, which I've labeled there. Here's the other one. We said it was -5, 0, and I'm going to label that as well. So we've got the 2 points. Here we go. And we need a line that crosses through both those points. Well, according to the rule, it was meant to be -x minus 5. Look at that. It crosses through those 2 points exactly. Okay? And that's what you're doing. You're learning to sketch that line, which is pretty much what we got. Same thing. Okay? And that's how you do it. So I want you to get very comfortable with this process. Pick a few questions, do the negatives, do the positives, but each one I want you to try and sketch it. Okay? Especially question 3. Try question 3 at least. Okay? There you go. Hopefully this video is more direct for those who weren't 100% sure with what you need to do for 9E.